dropped you. My phone's determined to commit suicide. I'll see if it still looks like it's trying to fall off. Hang on. Well, it's balanced on a mug. How do you do? Can you hear me all right? Yeah, good. Can I hear you? That's the question. Do you want to say something? No, not yet. Let's have a look. If you just make sure your microphone's switched on. So on your thing, you should have a mic. Okay, it's picking you up, but I'm not getting any sound. Hang on, let me just check that I haven't done something stupid like turn my volume down. Try again. No, no noises yet. That's interesting. Gotta love the internet. This is what I was like last night on my Facebook interview. So, look. Oh, hang on. I heard you then for a second. So, now just press the unmute button. Try again.
Can you hear us now? Fantastic.
So how do you do? It's always good fun starting a Zoom video.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done much Zooming or, you know?
Yeah,
online?
we're both working from home and have been since March, so it's just been constant.
Zoom every day.
Yeah, Zoom or Teams, one of us is on it all the time.
So you know what it's like. You know what it's like, you know, it can be dodgy.
Yep.
Let me just bear with me 1 second. I want to make sure I know. Yep, know what we're on. Do so many cases, it's easy to lose track of who you're speaking to. So you're the lady that's got 2 dogs, one of whom is suddenly started messing in the house for no apparent reason, and you're pregnant. Yay! How exciting! A really good thing I have to say about having received the message from you was that quite often I will get a call or a message from somebody asking for desperate help because they're due to have a baby in 2 weeks' time.
Oh.
Which, you know, I just go, what do you want? So, you know, well done for being preemptive on it and getting ahead on it, because that gives you time to sort it out. The odd thing about what you sort of said to me so far in your email was that she seems to have been safely toilet trained previous to Christmas. Is that right? Or had she had sometimes on, sometimes off?
Yeah, so she had done it sometimes, but not like on consecutive days. So it would usually be if we hadn't taken them out on a night time. So she will go in the back garden, but if we hadn't taken her out one evening, then she would probably go the next morning, wouldn't she? Or go in the night, sorry. But it would just be a one-off. Whereas with this Christmas, that was, even though we were taking her out and you know, 2 or 3 times a day, she still was messing in the night.
All right, just tell you, because I've just realised I haven't told you. My big screen where I can actually see your face is over there.
Okay.
Completely ignoring you. It's actually because I'm paying more attention to what you're saying and to remember to talk to camera, which is over here. So yeah, it can look. And then obviously when I'm taking notes, I'm looking down there. So just so you know, I am on board with you. So she wasn't completely toilet trained. If you didn't get her out properly to go to the toilet on a night time, there was a chance that she would go in the house in the daytime.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it both urine and feces, or is it just feces?
Most of the time it's it's feces, but she did a couple of times urinate as well.
Not many, but,
When is she spayed yet?
Yeah, she was
And when was
spayed. She wasn't a year, and she hadn't actually come into season. But the vet had said she could be spayed at the same time as needing a tail docking.
All right. So how old is she now?
She's 4.
Has she been spayed quite a long time?
Yes, yeah, before her first birthday.
Okay. So we're going to do what we call a timeline. And that kind of gives us an idea of what else might have potentially caused the change, because it's always weird when you get change. Sudden change like this, from being relatively predictable in her toileting habits to being sort of very unpredictable or completely different from what you were used to.
Mm-hmm.
They're most likely to be as a result of a medical issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Most likely cause for it is anxiety or stress. Yeah. So we have to have a look. Now, the easiest way for us to hopefully figure out which track we're going down and whether or not they're both entirely wrong is to get an idea of what else might have changed, what else might be affecting it. So if we go from her original, so I'm drawing literally a line, and we see the line. So her normal at the beginning of the line, how often would you say these one-off going to the toilet accidents would have been?
I think once every couple of months.
Yeah, first of all, yeah.
Yeah, once every 2 months, I'd say. Very rare. Well, I say very rare, but it shouldn't be happening that often, should it really? But yeah.
Okay, and when she was when she was having those accidents, were the feces normal?
They were, yeah.
Not
solid.
diarrhea.
No.
Okay. And your partner, husband, partner?
Yeah.
Said to begin with. So that implies that rather than a sudden change, we've got a graduation. So can you?
I think it was just the Christmas time, just before Christmas time, where it was like 6 days on the trot. So it was previously once every couple of months to then hitting near Christmas, where it came every day for 6 days. That's sort of where I meant with that comment.
All right. I didn't know if you meant like a graduating situation, a scale, or whether, as I'd understood before, was bang, straight up. Okay. So when you said just before Christmas, can you be a bit more specific time-wise? How long before Christmas?
So let me just have a look at the calendar. So she slept in our room on Christmas Eve, didn't she? Which is the 24th.
Yeah.
And she didn't mess that night. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nights prior. So the 19th. And then we stayed at my parents' house on Christmas night, and she messed at their house, which is unheard of. She's never done that before.
So, sorry, you were breaking up a bit. So on the 19th, that evening, she was her first time that she, and then you went to, I missed when you went to Mum and Dad's.
On Christmas night.
Christmas night. And so did she mess as well at their house then?
Yeah.
All right. And 6 consecutive days, and then what happened?
And then I started giving her more attention. Not that I wasn't giving her attention before, but I was giving her one-on-one time. So I was taking her out by myself on an evening, and making sure that she was going to the toilet. And then she didn't mess for about 4 nights, was it? So I continued with that, and then she started again.
So in spite of taking her out, and in spite of making her go to the toilet, she was still going to the toilet inside the house on a night time.
Yeah, but when she was going to the toilet in those 4 days, when she, after those 4 days, when she was going to the toilet, it was very small amounts. It wasn't like a full, it wasn't like she'd fully emptied herself. It was really small amounts. And then she would mess fully in the night.
So how many clean nights between the 6 nights and then taking her out? How many clean nights would you say you'd got?
4, was it? 4 or 5?
Before.
Yeah, between the 2.
Oh yeah, 4
Okay.
probably.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you'd started punishing her. Can you tell me what you mean by that? Can you tell me what was happening?
Yeah, so I've done that every time that she's messed, to be honest. So I came down, when we come downstairs, and she would, our other dog was absolutely fine. She didn't react at all. But Bramble would be in the corner on the couch, cowering basically. And I'd shout, say, naughty girl, tap her on the nose, and then put her outside, make sure she was outside.
And that's been even before she was unpredictable with her toileting. That was, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And obviously you got it's kind of standard knowledge out there in the general public that that's what you should do, and you've been advised to stop that, and you said that it had improved when you stopped punishing her, but yeah, okay. So what time does she get fed?
So in the morning it's at 7:30, and then on a night time it's 5 o'clock.
Okay, so I missed the first one. In the morning
7:30,
and then 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what time are you going to bed?
About 11.
Yeah.
All right. Any idea at all, any information on what time she's going to the toilet in the night?
I think it's early hours.
Still quite fresh.
Yeah, it's not usually dried out when you're cleaning it up. It's usually quite fresh.
Okay. And when she was sleeping with you, were you getting any accidents in the bedroom?
No.
Is she has she been crate trained? Is she able to sleep in a cage, in a bed?
I haven't crate trained her. She's got a bed, but it's an open bed.
All right. What I know you've got another dog, and obviously you've not had the same problem with your other dog. What experience other than that have you had with dogs before?
So the only other experience is family dogs. So when I moved out and moved into my own house, well, no, sorry. So I got Coco, and then it was a couple of years and I got my own house. But before then it was just our family dogs, but we've always had dogs.
All right. And so how much experience have you had with training and sort of training techniques?
Not a lot, to be honest. Coco was, when we had Coco, we had a Labrador as well, and it seemed like the lab almost taught Coco, because she just never messed in the house, but she was an older female, and we caught her once growl at Coco when she squatted, and she just kind of, I was I did try. So when Bramble was a puppy, I would take her out half an hour after water, half an hour after food, and then praise as soon as she went. And then every hour, this was obviously whilst I had 2 weeks off work, whilst I brought her home, and did that with her. But to be honest, when she was a puppy, she wasn't that bad on a night time that I can remember. She was a destructive puppy, but she wasn't, not in terms of mess.
Yeah, destructive puppy. I heard just about managed to catch before you broke up.
Yeah.
And when you was destructive as a puppy, were you punishing for that behaviour as well?
Yes.
And was she tending, when she was being destructive, was she tending to do that when you weren't around?
Yes.
All right. I need a quick look at your dog. That's going to be fun. That's really good fun on a Zoom call. Can you get somehow I can see you and her together?
Yeah.
On the floor. And be moving around normally.
Okay.
So that she's not being restrained or anything.
Yes. Just trying to get this. Come down. Good girl.
You just hold yourself still. What does she do if you or keep still?
She's staring at us. I don't know if you can see her.
Yeah.
Don't tell complete. Okay. All right. Can you both just leave her where she is for a second and just go out of the room so I can just watch her?
Yeah, sure. Come back. Good girl. You wait. Right there. Good girl.
If you can hear me, just pop back in again.
Oh, the laptop's gone off. Could you still see? Hold on. Yeah.
For me for a second. Just
Sorry?
take your hands away from your hands away. Okay. I just want to find out something. If you both go down onto the floor with her, but don't give her, I just want to see what she does in relation to space with you.
Just sit on the floor.
Big, kind of in the way. If you go back towards the door a bit so that I can. Okay, just touch her a little bit, not a lot. And take it away again. All right, I want you to stroke her really slowly and really long. Really slow, really, really long. Okay, take your hands away again. Interesting little. She's cute. All right.
Knows it, yeah.
Sorry, darling.
She knows it. She knows she's cute.
All right. So she can stay with you if you like, and you can act normally. You can do whatever you would normally be doing. She has breakfast at 7:30.
Yeah.
What time does she do the poo daytime?
First thing in the morning. If she hasn't messed in the night, she'll go out first thing in the morning, unless we're walking her straight away.
So if she hasn't messed in the night, she'll go first thing.
As soon as the front door, as soon as the back door's open, she'll go out.
Okay. And then when does she next do a poo?
Not until her evening walk.
What time is that?
It's usually about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Okay. All right. And at the moment, since before Christmas, has she had access? Has somebody been available to let her out all through the day?
We've been at home.
And does she know how to ask when she needs to go out, or does she just follow your other dog?
She tends to, doesn't she? She tends to go to the back door and spin.
She knows how to ask. Okay. Yeah. If we were to say that the food that she eats at 7:30 in the morning its transit time from one end of the dog to the other end of the dog, from 7:30 till 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5. So about 10 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if she's being fed at 5 p.m., 10 hours from then is?
Oh, question.
3 o'clock in the morning. When she's
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it might be as simple as, now the difficulty down is if you haven't changed when you're feeding or what you're feeding, then why has it suddenly started happening now that she can't hold on? All right.
Yeah.
It leads back to the medical side, because if you haven't changed the food type and you haven't changed the time that you're feeding, yeah, something made it harder for her to hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her time, her transit time won't have changed.
Yeah.
The food and the food times haven't changed.
Yes.
What is her ability to restrain herself? Yeah.
Yeah.
That can make it harder to hold on are if you're anxious, because you'll get a faster, your guts will move faster, and we know ourselves, you know, if something upsets you, one of the first things that's going to happen is that your stomach gets upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just mention? Sorry. I just mentioned. You mentioned that when before lockdown, she was probably actually being fed probably a bit late, about 6 o'clock, because we was getting home from work. So because we're home, we're feeding her at 5 o'clock, just because we're eating at that time. Whereas before we was getting home at probably 6 o'clock, she'd be fed then. And that's when she was sort of really never did it, did she? It was one every now and again.
Okay. So one thing we know then has changed that could possibly have affected her ability to hold on. Because if that's an extra hour's difference, you know, and she's learned to hold on from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock, whenever it is you're getting up, she's learned that I can manage that, I can do that, but now the ball's moved, that extra hour off to have made it too difficult.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And that might be something worth investigating, you know, that if you choose to a later feeding time again, is she able then to hold on?
Yeah.
The other I would consider doing, because we think it might be a transit time issue, is setting an alarm and getting up and giving her an option for going to the toilet at stupid o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And see if we're on the right track. Even if you're not going to do that forever, it does at least kind of confirm, because if she's getting up with you at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock and she needs to go and she does a poo and it's a normal poo, then that tends to, we are on the right track, and it is, that's the primary reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that'd be a nice simple solution.
Yeah.
If there is an anxiety element, then punishment and having an unpredictable relationship with your owners and not knowing whether they're going to be like a normal nice owner or they're going to be crabby, that makes it more likely that they can become anxious, and that makes it therefore more difficult to look after yourself with regards to toilets. I tend to speak about this on a very personal point of view, because I do suffer from IBS, and it can be affected quite significantly by anxiety, you know.
Okay.
So they do go hand in hand. So one thing, and I think you've probably realized now that punishment is not gonna, and I don't want to nag on about it at all.
Yeah.
you do what you know, and then when you know something better, you do better, and
Mhm.
that's just that. We need a relationship as much as possible in as predictable for the dog as possible. Now, what I've seen and it's so difficult on Zoom, but looking at her body language with regards to you, she gives a lot of sort of body language that indicates that she's not completely sure about your relationship. She's
Okay.
quite low, her tail is quite tucked. She's doing a lot of licking, so flicking her tongue across her nose like this. Yeah. So it's all kind of don't slimy kind of dog behavior.
Yeah.
And if you've got that kind of personality, which she might have come with, that kind of sort of a little bit worried about life kind of personality, it doesn't take a lot to knock their confidence. Yeah, so even if you're not actually telling her off anymore when she's had an accident in the house, then just the fact that your body language changes, because it grosses us out and we get all stiff and grumpy and when we should. Even a sensitive dog can be enough to make them feel more worried about us.
Okay.
And dog will never choose to go to the toilet in order to affect how you feel. She's not doing it with you in mind. She's doing it because she has a biological need to go.
Yeah.
So telling her off or getting upset with her isn't going to change the fact that she needed to go.
Yeah.
It'll be a bit like telling a baby off for filling its nappy. There's no point. And it does risk her starting to get really worried about when there is feces present, the owner might start to act in this strange way, in this punishing way.
Okay.
So that behavior you've seen of the cringing away and the worrying is actually, it's not about, oh dear, I made a mistake. It's not about feeling guilty. It's about, if there's a poo around, the owner starts to act weird.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's not ever going to put the two together. She's not ever going to go, I must not do a poo because the owner will get angry.
Yeah.
The two are completely unrelated.
Mm.
And once you know that starts to make, when in the past, because I used to be many years ago, before I knew better, I used to be a punishment-based trainer as well.
Yeah.
So it is a case of now you know not to, basically.
Yeah.
We need
sure.
to, if she has had an accident, we need to get her out of the way before we clean it up. We need to accept the fact that she hasn't done it on purpose. As much as it offends us and it upsets us, that wasn't the intention at all. So you can be nice to her. You can say, oh God, come on, let's go out. You go out there, I'm going to sort it out, So we don't have to get rotten with her at all with regards to that. We do need to have a think about, and the reason I was asking is if the feces are normal, is if there is any change in the size, shape, even if it's normal. Okay, so a recent experience, personal experience, is that my little old dog is passing feces more frequently, and the feces is not as bulky as it was, it's smaller.
Yeah.
And as a result, I'd noticed that, being a veterinary nurse, being a bit sensitive and always examining my dog's poos. I'd noticed that, so I'd asked her to check, and it turns out that she did have a medical cause. for that change, you know. So I would keep a record of, on those occasions where she does have an accident, does the feces look different from its normal, you know, even if it's still normal, does it look like a different sort of normal?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Size, shape, colour. One thing I can predict with my dogs is if they've had certain types of treats or certain types of foods, they will need to go more frequently, and they will have bulkier feces. So it's going to, imagine if you've eaten a bigger meal, you're going to need a bigger poo.
Yeah.
And it's harder to keep that in.
Yeah.
Because it's going to stimulate your guts more. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing? Does it feel like it's starting to make some sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
definitely.
So we were worried that just before Christmas, we'd taken the dogs to the vets for their vaccinations and for their boosters, sorry. And the vet said Bramble's teeth, they've got quite a lot of plaque on them. And he said you can either brush them or use some gel to put on her teeth and then put some stuff in her water. So we bought that the next day and then started to do her teeth, but she doesn't like it. She's not pulling away, but you can tell she doesn't like it. And I didn't know if that had caused it, because it was something that was totally new, had freaked her out, and we were doing it, but we were doing it at the same time every night, weren't we? We were doing it at 8 o'clock, but then she was messing, so then I just stopped doing that totally. But that was in the 6 days while she was messing, I stopped. And then she stopped, and then she started again, but I haven't since gone back to the toothbrushing situation, and now I'm a bit scared to do it again in case it sets her off.
So anything that you change in the environment, yes, it absolutely could be related. And if it's related in time, we have to, there's a very good possibility it's related to the problem. Yeah. Because I think, and again, I'm going on a very, very short period of watching your dog, but I think that she has an underlying issue with anxiety. And for that kind of person, if something is happening that is making them feel more anxious, then yes, absolutely, it could then have a knock-on effect. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing that occurs to me is that it were a physical reaction, which is unlikely to the medication that you're using for your toothbrushing.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but you know, everybody has their own particular sensitivities to different chemistries, so possibility. There are other options for tooth cleaning. Does she is she a chewy dog? Will she chew on things?
Yes.
It sounds like she probably was when she was a puppy, if she was distraught.
Yeah.
Chewing. Yeah. So things like providing natural food chews, so things, pieces of dried animal, basically.
Nice. Yeah.
You want a good selection of dried animals, and pasture pets do a lot of different things. Another good place to get them from is the cheap pet shop on Wybers Wood.
Oh, yeah.
In Grimsby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the shop next to Tesco's, the cheap shop, but I can't remember what it's called.
Pound Stretcher.
But they have a pet section at the back there, and they do quite a lot of things like dried chicken. And what I want to try and avoid though is highly processed things. So things like raw hides I would tend to avoid, unless you buy natural raw hides which haven't had the glues and the, you know, the colors and things added to them. You can also, I don't know what the liquid is that you're giving to a water. I don't know if you can give me a name, because it's not something I recognize. But there is a seaweed supplement called Plaquoff. So Plaquoff.
Yeah.
It's dried seaweed, and you add a little bit to their food. And what it does is it changes the pH in the mouth so that the tartar tends to become crumbly.
Okay.
And it cracks more easily when they're chewing on things. Okay.
Yeah.
When investigating chew toys, you can also look at things like toys that are designed to be chewed but not destroyed. So things like Nylabones.
Yeah.
And for some dogs, you might need to make those easier to begin with. So if you've got a handsaw or a rasp that you can roughen it up with,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's a grip in it. And for some dogs, adding some sort of flavour to it. So things like potted meat or some kind of fish, or just rubbing it in a bit so that there's a bit of an invitation to go for it. So whereas I prefer the real bits of animal, dried animal. They are expensive, you know, and if you've got a dog who needs to chew a lot and has got a lot of stuff going on in their mouth, then that can quite quickly become quite a high budget. You can also there's quite a few people who dry their own bits of animal.
Okay.
Do you have lava? You know, but you can also use things like carrots are quite good if you freeze them.
Okay.
That's quite a cheap option. And we're looking for anything that she's going to have to put to the back of her mouth in order to be able to make it work, because the worst bit tends to be on the back teeth. Yeah. Got a dog in the room. I can show you a 7-year-old. How old is Bramble? Remind me.
4.
Okay. Where's Twiggy? Come here. Come here. I want your mouth. Oh, she's in bed.
Lucky Twiggy. Stretch.
I want some mouths. Twig, come here. Oh, it's such hard work. Right, there we go. Head up. You can see. Can you see? I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
This I can't. Let me just angle my phone a little bit. Change direction so you can see. So back teeth, back there.
Wow.
Okay.
And I don't clean teeth.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I don't clean their teeth. They do.
So
they have raw bones from the butcher. You have to be careful with your raw bones that you're getting big ones, that you're not using small things like rib bones. You're not using things like spinal bones, things that they could swallow in chunks. We need big bones.
Okay.
And when you first start feeding bone, there are a few issues. You need to make sure that your dog isn't getting too much all in one go. If their gut's not used to it, it can make them quite constipated, and it can bulk their feces out so much that it's quite hard to pass.
Okay.
But once they're having it regularly, they get used to it. And some dogs, if it's the first time they've done it, they might bite down harder than we really want them to, and they can break their teeth. So it's being careful, trying it and seeing what your dog, what their sort of chew style is, because they have a chew style. And some dogs, if you're seeing a dog really bearing down on something that's really hard, then you need to be looking for something that's a little bit less resistant to that. So it's going to break more easily. Does that make sense? So they're not going to break the teeth. Because you can go up to the hardness of something like antler chews.
Yep, they've got those.
Which again, if you quite, that's why some dogs will break their teeth on an antler, because they're one of these dogs that really bear down and really want it to get that breaking sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So tooth cleaning options that I would go for, rather than scaring her and forcing her to have it done, I would go with adding plaque off to the food and getting her doing natural tooth cleaning. Yeah.
Brilliant. When you say bits of animal, do you mean like pig's ears and those sorts of things, like dried? I don't even know what half of the stuff is, but I get what you mean.
Just recently, Wybers Woods had hairy cow's ears.
Nice.
Oh, but they smell nice.
Garden
Love
treats.
them.
Yeah, I bet.
You can buy things like whole rabbits,
Okay.
you know, and it's because they've got to chew. They've got to get it to the back of their mouth to chew.
Okay.
So that hopefully will help not increase their anxiety by not having to do that. Twiggy says, "Can I come out?" They all have to be under. They like another bed behind me, but everybody. I'm going to show you. Everyone wants to be under the bed, and at the moment,
Oh.
so already a dodo, and Twiggy is in the queue. Look,
Oh.
you're too big. You're going to just sit on him.
Oh.
I'm going to go. My legs there. Right. You can see what I'm dealing with here. I mean, it's lovely that they want to be with me, but I don't know where I'm supposed to put my legs. What else would I consider? I always like to try and think, what would I do? You know? So I would definitely consider either, and it might be good practice for you actually. You're going to need to get a child monitor anyway at some point.
Yep.
One that is activated by movement as well as sound. Okay, because if you think about it, when she's going to go to the toilet, she has to move to do it.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea. And even if you're too late, even if she's already gone, it will give you an idea of what time she's going. So that can investigate whether or not it's a transit time issue. So I would keep a record of feeding time and toilet time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you feed twice, there should be 2 obvious time zones for delivery, if you like.
Yeah.
If we've got the monitor on, even if we don't manage to catch her, what that can do for you is give you an idea of when to move your meal time, but it can also give you an idea of when to set an alarm to get yourselves up before she goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of knowing that she's going to be allowed access, so she doesn't have that anxiety of trying to hold on and failing.
Yeah.
Dogs don't, once they've learned, and you said that she has learned to ask to go out. Once they've learned to ask to go out and they know that outside is the right place to go and it's where they're comfortable going, then going inside causes them to feel uncomfortable and it causes them to feel anxious. Yeah. So she's already punishing herself. You don't need to
Oh,
join in.
yeah.
And I think that's probably as much as I would do for now.
Okay. You said when you were watching her, she looks like she's quite anxious with us. Is there anything that we can do to improve that relationship?
There is, absolutely. So the first thing I do is I would want to learn a bit more about body language myself. Yeah. because everybody's different, you need to know your own dog really well. Yeah. If she's already got an underlying kind of a little bit kind of cringy personality, she's a wolf, go out there, craze about the over the top about life. She might be a glass half full kind of a person, things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
Then find out what her normal is. Find out what she looks like when something's happening that she absolutely loves, and really get to recognize the change in the body language. So you can see, how does she hold her tail when she's definitely happy about something? Where does she keep her ears when that she's, some dogs will go all the way up. Some dogs only manage to move the very tiny bit at the top of the ear, and the rest of the ear stays flat. How does she hold her face? Because quite often, if they're a little bit worried, they'll get kind of worry lines.
Okay.
Tensing up this part of the lips, they'll kind of get a bit of a crease, and you probably saw you drag her back out again. But when you watch your video back, you'll see that as I was trying to handle Twiggy, she will have tensed her face up here, because I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Ooh. So they get kind of worry line. How they hold their forehead. So quite often a worried dog will get quite a deep crease up the center, so that their eyebrows are coming together the same as we do. So they'll get a crease line. Position, when she's in normal, she might hold her back quite level. When she's a bit worried, she might sort of dip her tail down and tuck her back end under a little bit, and tuck her tail as well. And when she's happy, find that she's skipping a bit on it, the back end's a bit higher and it's a bit dancier. It's about getting to know your dog and being able to recognize these sometimes quite tiny signs of how they're feeling, and we can learn to be sensitive to them in the same way that we can be sensitive to a human's face. We can learn to be those tiny body language signals. So that's the first thing I would do. The next thing I would do is I would start to recognize what it is about how I interact with my dog that causes them signs of discomfort or signs of not being sure about our relationship. So if this signs of being cringy or then I would want to try and change how I was acting to see if I could change how the dog was feeling. Sorry, you got a question?
And I was,
you were going to ask me something.
It was only, I was just going to say that when you asked Lee to give her slow strokes, her body, in my opinion, her body language changed, because we almost always fuss her around the head, don't we? And it's really fast movements, and we like wriggle her around. But actually, when you were doing that, her face just seemed to soften, actually, and she seemed to really enjoy that. So I think that, for a start, is probably one of those things.
It's a well-known fact now with dogs that most dogs don't actually like being touched that much. And we're monkeys, we groom each other, we touch each other, we're all about hands, and dogs not really. Dogs don't really touch each other except when they're playing or they're aggressing against each other, or they're sex, and the rest of the time they don't really do physical contact in the same way that we do. They'll do closeness, so they'll sit next to each other or lay next to each other, but they don't tend to do mutual grooming and licking and things like that in the same way that monkeys do, and we're monkeys. A lot of the time our dogs are trying to say to us, oh, don't, and we're missing
know.
Yeah.
Patients were missing those bits of information, so it's something to really be looking for. Why does it make a difference when you go slow strokes? Well, that's more normal for a dog to communicate through slow, careful body language, and it's a pleasant, non-threatening feeling for most dogs. Once they're used to being touched by a human, it's not as aggressive from their point of view.
Yeah.
So, and it's very rhythmical. It can start to make them relax, and it can start to calm them down. And one of the reasons it calms them down is it calms us down as well. So you get like this feedback, the owner and the dog. So yeah, everybody has particular sensitivities. Heads and ears are usually quite sensitive for most dogs. And it's not all dogs at all. You know, some dogs do love being roughed up. Some dogs do love being scrunged and whatever, but the vast majority, not so much.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, slow massage can help them to feel more relaxed, less anxious, depending on the dog, as long as they're enjoying it and they're asking for it. So one of the things you can do to find out whether or not your dog wants to continue is look for what they call keep going signals. So if you do some slow touching and then you stop, what does your dog do? And she actually does start inviting more touching.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Signal, I want you to continue. And what I want you to do is get into the habit of stopping and asking, do you want to continue?
Yeah.
Because if your dog then says, oh no, that's good, thanks, I'm done, I'm cooked, I'm finished, I can take myself away, then that gives them a little bit of control. And having some control, dogs have very little control of their lives living with us. They don't get to decide when the door opens. They don't get to decide what time you feed them or what time you walk them. They have very little control. And giving them some control can help them to feel better, basically. Yeah. It just makes them feel less anxious. Okay. Giving her the opportunity to be successful. Success really builds confidence. Yeah. And the way is you give her little puzzles that are within her ability. So they're not too difficult. So things like finding a treat inside a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figuring out how to open the box to get the treat. Some dogs are really smart and they sort of go through that kind of puzzle quick, fast. Some dogs kind of go, oh God, I can't do that. That's too hard. Oh my God. You have to judge the difficulty according to the dog. So there's a really cool site called Canine Enrichment.
Yeah.
Which ideas for mental challenges for dogs. Some of them are homemade, so you don't have to spend a lot of money. Some of them are available over the counter. So if you look up on Amazon or eBay, if you look up canine mental enrichment, there's tons of. You could spend an absolute fortune, you know.
Okay.
Throwing money at your dog, you can go that way, but you can do similar things with things like toilet roll tubes or pop bottles or cardboard boxes, anything that's going to go in the recycling unit, as long as you haven't got the kind of dog that's going to chew and swallow those kinds of objects.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about knowing your own dog.
Yeah.
So building confidence, having her learn that you're not the only place that she has to go to for reinforcement. She can reinforce herself.
Okay. Oh.
She can be responsible for herself. So the only other thing that occurred to me, and we did do a little test of having you leave the room, was whether an element of anxiety about being separated from you. And although she was puzzled and maybe a little bit unsure, perhaps she isn't normally left alone in the bedroom, then I wouldn't say she was desperately anxious about it. She was more kind of, we're and was definitely listening at the door. But I would like to investigate that a bit more. And again, the easiest way to do that is by video, is by doing a similar kind of setup, leave the video running, see what she actually does. And if an element of anxiety, what you'll see is pacing, panting, whining, yeah?
Yeah.
So an inability to relax, an inability to settle down and just go, oh, she's gone. Yeah. If you are seeing signs of anxiety, then that is another issue that could very well affect toileting. You know.
Okay.
The fact that you're moving, that movement style of anxiety can make the gut move and make it more likely. And for a dog to suddenly, if she is suddenly changing her toilet habits, if it is related to anxiety, then you would start to have to look back, what's changed, what might have caused that. And it is possible with a very, very sensitive dog that you attacking her and forcing her mouth open and dragging a toothbrush across her teeth is going to cause, you know, if she's that sensitive. But it could be other things. It could be external noises, things like fireworks night can suddenly start making a dog start to worry about being left alone.
Yeah.
So still more information required, but I think that's something you can investigate for yourselves and see, you know, is she showing signs of not being able to settle, not being able to relax, not, you know, worrying basically when you leave her on her own.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I think I might have left you with enough to think about and investigate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're happy with that.
Yeah, really happy. Thank you.
Because we maybe aren't quite all the way to the answer, I think it's worth you popping me an email, and specifically with, I want to know that you know your transit time.
Yeah.
That you've investigated that, and whether you think that is the central core of the problem. It might be, and that would be the easiest thing. You know, we're hoping that is the cause. We want to know whether or not you've seen a change in her general body language with regards to anxiety, whether or not she seems calmer, more able to be still when you're not giving her attention. Because one of the things, when I asked you to be still, she became very frantic, very movie. Yeah. Whereas if I go still, my dogs will tend to sort of go, oh, right, okay. Should we just wait here then, or what? You know, they're not as excitable about movement. So I want to know, are you happy once you've got to know her body language a bit more, so you've done that investigation and you're starting to see, I want to know, are you seeing her being able to settle down and relax better, sleep better, just chill out generally? Yeah. So and I think you've got a lot of getting to know your dog to do, I think. Yeah,
absolutely, completely agree.
And I don't want to give you too much to actively do, because I think, you know, you want to be starting now, getting her ready for the fact that your time is going to be so much more limited once you've got a baby in the house. So one of the things that I really want you to get into using chews and enrichment toys is because I really want her to start to be able to entertain herself in a relaxed and happy way without needing you involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one that you're going to be able to do, is when you are not able to give her as much attention, you can then give her these things to do. And you've already said you don't think she'll be very confident with enrichment type toys. Well, now's the time to start getting that confidence, building up her ability to do it.
Yeah. I think that, so the reason we say that is because we tried a couple of things. Like the first lockdown, we tried a few enrichment things, hadn't we? And I think it's because we're doing them with both dogs together, and Coco's so confident, our older dog, and she knows how to do so many like puzzles and things, that Bramble just sits back, and then when you say to Bramble, go on, then you try it, she just kind of looks at it as if to say, I don't really know what I'm doing, because I guess she's just expecting Coco to take the lead. So we need to do it one-on-one more often.
I'm muting myself between times because it makes you break up slightly less, and then obviously sometimes I can't unmute myself very easily. But yeah, if you've got a confident dog in the house, that does tend to squish the other dog's personality. You know, it's the same with us, isn't it? If you go out and you've got a friend who is a rave and whatever, you tend to take a back seat and just watch. You don't tend to join them and get more confidence. So yeah, it is awkward if you've got different types of personalities in the house, but it's not impossible at all. You know, it does require some thinking, some management, using stair gates, doors, cages, or just supervision, you know, constantly. And you may as well get used to doing that, aren't you? You're going to have a child that you're going to have to
in a cage now.
Redirect, and you know, so dogs are good practice for that, you know.
Absolutely.
All right, tons of stuff on our Facebook page if you want to troll through. You know, I know that things like the consent test are on there, which is, do you want me to continue touching you? Do you want me to touch you? That's the consent test. And you can look that up if you can't find the video on our page. I know I don't keep it organized so much as throw stuff in there and hope. Who else might you look for? So Ian, it depends if you're a reader. Ian Dunbar he's put his full books online for free, and there might be something in the book called After You Get Your Puppy with regards to toilet training. My suspicion might be perhaps she's never been completely toilet trained. And it might be that perhaps retraining her as if she were a puppy might help. So that's going right back to her from getting it wrong and rewarding her whenever she goes to the toilet, you know, making happy noises, especially as you've done damage around the presence of feces. You know, might help to make her feel a bit more confident when she's getting it right. Especially,
that makes sense.
Especially if you're not also telling her off in the presence of poo. But this is life. We make mistakes, we learn from them. All right.
Perfect. That's ideal. Thank you ever so much.
So, relatively happy. Any other questions?
No questions. I'm happy.
No, all good. Really knowledgeable, that. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So keep in touch, because you know you have paid for more than just this. You know. I don't think at the moment without further evidence, I don't think I'm seeing a medical cause.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not going to push you to go to the vet, but if this becomes a prolonged issue and in spite of investigating it and getting more information, you find that it's still happening, then that might be, we'll backtrack on that and we'll go, well, perhaps there's something else going on that we need to investigate.
Okay. No.
With regards to writing your notes up, I've seen that you've been taking quite a lot of notes and you will get a copy of this video. Do you feel that you also need it in written form?
No, I don't think so. I'd refer back to that, and I've taken, I think, the key notes, but I'll watch this back and make more. I'm a note taker.
It's up to you. I mean, I'm just being lazy, really, because obviously then I have to think and type and all of the above, and you have paid for it, so if you want it, I will make it into note form for you. But if not, and you're going to let me off the hook, then I'll say I'll send you your YouTube link so that you can watch your video back. Yeah. And obviously at any point, if you need more information, send us an email. If you've got videos and things that you've taken and you want me to look at those, that's fine as well. The easiest way to do that is to either download them to YouTube and then send me the link, because quite often videos are too big to send via Messenger. Messenger gets dropped not longer than about 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. But if you think, has this got something to do with this problem, then, you know, send me that as well.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm
Thank you.
if you're relatively happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm going like that if I look at the video. All right.
Thank you
Let
ever
us
so
know
much.
if you
Thanks,
need
Emma.
any more.
Speak
Bye-bye.
soon.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.